Would you like to move forward, guys? Just yes. In front. Nice. Please. Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Thank you for your coming. This is a Wednesday forum, a weekly discussion that is held by both CRCS and ICRS. Today we bring you a special topic that is about a Gog and Magog in the Abrahamic traditions. And we have our speaker here. She is Mowafg. Sorry. He is Mowafg Masuwd. He currently works at the Department of English, University of Zawia, Libya, and he is a PhD candidate of the Indonesian Consortium for Religious Studies, Yogyakarta, this campus. And his current research revolves around Qur'anic and Biblical eschatology, prophecy, and apocalypticisms. This Wednesday forum will have two sessions. First sessions, Moffat, you will have 45 minutes to present your presentation, and another 45 minutes for the question, answer, or even comment from the audiences. So without further ado, please help me to invite Mowafg Masuwd to present his presentations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your coming today. This is my topic, and really it's my area of interest, mostly about nine years now, even before joining ICRS. The topic is about a prophecy, old prophecy. It's called Gog and Magog. It's already in the three Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And we have some references to it as literature. The name is called in Arabic, Yajuj and Majuj, and some they just call it Yajuj and Majuj without Hamza. In Hebrew, Gog and Magog, and in Greek. We have in Arabic, because it's the language of the Qur'an, Hebrew and Greek, the language of the Old Testament and the New Testament. And you see here in the map, we have the Middle East. This area is the Middle East, and it's the birthplace of the three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So the narrative itself will supposed to happen here in that area. So it's far away from Indonesia. I have some terminology. It's mostly technical. We use it. Eschatology, this term used by even non-specialists. They use it to refer to some events will happen in future. We have prophecies, oracles, and apocalyptic. Eschatology. So this is just a brief introduction to the topic. So don't disturb yourself with focusing on all these terminologies. Eschatology is the study of the final ends. Now we are in the year 2019. So eschatology, it's old science. People try to understand what will happen in future according to religious traditions, religious texts. So it's the study of the final ends and things in the future for what will happen in the years coming. So it's not just 2 or 3 or 10 years later, maybe 100 years, 200, 300. Prophecy, it's a form of religious meditation. Usually we have this kind of prophecy and prophets. two words coming together, the prophet, a person who gets revelation from God. So from Islamic perspective, Christians, Judaism, we have many prophets. Mostly they are shared in the text. The most famous, maybe Musa, or for the prophet, he's talking as he gets revelation from God. And this is, we call him prophet. Prophets sometimes they can tell the future because they get revelation from God, so they can know what will happen. And we have just one term called oracle. This is divine communication. Usually we have God as a sender of a message to humanity through a person, human being. Sometimes we have direct contact between God and human being. Sometimes we have God sending an angel, or the human being, the prophet, gets a vision, a dream, he sees something from God, and then they tell us what they saw or what they heard. Apocalyptic, this is one of the most complex terms. It's actually a new term. Apocalyptic, apocalypticism, apocalypse. These three terms mostly new as a kind of scientific study. Apocalypticism, it's the last mentioned in the last book of the New Testament, the book of Revelation. That's the Apocalypse of John. And this definition, I took it from John Collins. Mostly this is the wide accepted definition. But as criticism for this definition, it can fit the New Testament more than the Qur'anic side and the Old Testament. Now, this is the most interesting part for me, at least. Gog and Magog, or Yajuj and Majuj. Most of us, some of us, know the topic from certain traditions. Others, they know it from many, like Judaism, Christianity, Islam. They are already mentioned in the three Abrahamic religions. This is a survey of the topic. Here I have the Hebrew Bible, the New Testament, so I don't use the term Old Testament, Qur'an, Hadith, and non-biblical pre-Islamic texts. And after the coming of Islam, we have this narrative spread widely in books of tafsir, books of hadith, but mostly I read just the books of hadith. For tafsir, that's different because it's not necessary they use the previous sources. For the Hebrew Bible mentioned Yajuj and Majuj, Gog and Magog. So Yajuj, Majuj, Arabic language. Gog, Magog, Hebrew, and used in English. I believe even here in Indonesia, wherever I go, I find books related to Yajuj and Majuj. They cited Yajuj and Majuj. And then you have some strange interpretations, who they are. People try to find out when they will come, because we have it as a story. They are behind a wall or living underground. We don't know exactly where, who they are, and when they will come and destroy our life. So we fight them. It's kind of far away interpretation from the text, but people, they like it. They like the story like this. If there is no action, we will not like it. So here in my survey, I focus on the text only, without going to the interpretations, because we can interpret the text according to our interest also. In the book of Genesis, that is the first book of the Old Testament, Hebrew Bible, they mentioned Magog, Majuj, but as sons of Japheth. Japheth is the we know the sons of Noah. Noah had 3 sons, Shem or Sam, and Japheth. Japheth is the youngest one. We have Shem, Ham, and Japheth, 3 sons. This is according to the Bible, and we have it as a reference in Islam as Yajuj and Majuj. They are the sons of Noah. So, in this case, we know they are human beings. They are not creatures, animals, something like this. From the 3 traditions, we believe they are human beings because they are sons of Noah. Japheth, this is the son, he had Gog and Magog. And the first book of Chronicles, the name Gog mentioned as a son of Joel, Uel. This is a minor prophet in Old Testament, and we have some few references to him in Tafsir. The longest narrative for the Gog and Magog already in the book of Ezekiel, or Ezekiel 38-39. This is the longest one, and it's the most influential narrative in the Hebrew Bible, and we can refer to it again in the last book of the New Testament, the book of Revelation, and many parts of this narrative could be found in Hadith, Tafsir. So this is the mostly this is the main source. In 2 chapters, 38 and 39. Ezekiel is a prophet, but he lived in exile. He lived in Babel, not in Jerusalem. Interestingly, from Qur'anic perspective, all the prophets, Jewish prophets mentioned in the Qur'an, they lived either in Palestine or in Misr, Egypt, but not in Iraq, Babel. So Ezekiel is not mentioned by name in the Quran. We have just a few hadiths referring to him, as Muslims, when they went to Iraq, they found his graveyard and they buried him again. So just that one, whether it's authentic or not, still it's very difficult to recognize. We have 38-39. The story begins in invasion of Israel by Gog, and Gog as a king. Now, in Ezekiel still we have Gog separated from Magog. So they are not Gog and Magog. Gog as a king, Magog as a land. So he is the king of this land. And then we have from 10 to 23, we have the plot doomed to be defeated. So we know the plot because Gog had planned to attack the Holy Land, and his plan failed, and his armies, because he collected armies. If we go back to the map of the Middle East, according to the text, there are many places they will go with Gog in his war. We have Foot, mostly the northeast, Libya, this is my country. Foot, we have Kush, Sudan, we have Persia, and we have other Beit-Garma, Tubal, Mishir, mostly they are here. Turkey and other parts. And Gog will come from, according to Ezekiel, will come from the north. We will find this later in the Qur'an interpretation again. We will find this, it's the same. So it comes from the north, maybe from here, from this area and above. We go down. And all these countries will go there. This is, just go quickly to, for the book of Ezekiel, we have when God's God destroys the armies of Gog and Magog. So they will not have face-to-face fight. So suddenly they will wake up and ask God to destroy them, and God will destroy them, and their bodies and will stay for a long time, and then God will take them. And we have finally Israel restored to the Holy Land. So this is the Gog and Magog prophecy, and this one is used widely in interpretation in many like politics, sociology. The New Testament, this is the book of Revelation. So for the New Testament, just mentioned once in Revelation 20, that's the last book. So the book of Revelation, it's apocalyptic book. So it talks about what will happen in future, the end of human life as we know it. So here in the book of Revelation, it's easy to distinguish the story as apocalyptic. But in Ezekiel, even the Qur'anic text, still it's very difficult. And I will tell you later why and how. For the book of Revelation, it will happen after we have Satan, Iblis, will be in jail for 1,000 years. And then he will be free again. When he will be free, and he shall deceive nations in the four corners, Gog and Magog, and gather them to the war. Here we can see the influence of Ezekiel's narrative, because here the decision, it's not Gog and Magog. Satan deceived them to go and fight. So we have some just minor information, like the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. This is also influences our understanding of the narrative. We know Gog and Magog, they are maybe millions, and they will take everything. So their number, and they went up over the face of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints. That's the Holy Land, and the beloved city, Jerusalem, and fire came down out of heaven and devoured them. So here also we have fire coming down and killed them. So we will not fight them. Now I go to the Quranic part. In the Quran, the story mentioned 2 times. Once in Surah Al-Kahf, the other one in Surah Al-Anbiya. In Al-Kahf means cave. The other, it's Surah number 18. Number 21 is the Al-Anbiya, it's prophets. Actually, Nabi, prophet in English, Nabi in Hebrew, Nabi in Arabic. So it's the story related to prophecies. For the Quran, we have in Surah Al-Kahf. Actually, Surah Al-Kahf had many other narratives, not just this. But this could be read as prophetic, as something related to futures. Other narratives related to the past. We have a figure in the narrative called Dhul Qarnayn. Even in Indonesia, there are many people, they have this name. They carry the name of Dhul Qarnayn in Indonesia. Dhul Qarnayn, this is a king or strong man. He had an army, and he went to 2 directions, east and west. And he met people and asked them to believe in God. After he finished from east and west, he come in one direction. So this direction is the north, because east, west, done either north or south. And he met just people who cannot understand any language. So it's like indigenous people, primitive, cannot understand anything. But in certain way, they told him that behind the mountain, there is corrupted people, Gog and Magog. So please build a sad dam to stop them from coming to us. And what he had done, he just filled the area between the two mountains with iron and copper or lead, depends on the interpretation. And after he finished this, he said, this one, which leads to the, this is a mercy from my Lord, but when the promise of my Lord comes, he will make it level, and ever is the promise of my Lord true. So, when the promise of my Lord, this is how we connect the story to the future. The promise, when the promise will come, the dam will be removed, destroyed, and then Gog and Magog will interact with people again. They will mix with each other for years, and then we have the end of days, resurrection day. In Surah Al-Anbiya 21, it says, just mention something in brief after telling many other narratives. It says there is a city, even in translation it's village. Village, it's qarya in Arabic. It's a small village, not actually big city. That there is a ban. God destroyed that city and didn't allow the people to come back to live in that city again until the promised day, until Gog and Magog will appear. So they will not go back until Gog and Magog free, they can go back. Mostly here, if the regular question, this village or city, it's the Holy Land. So they cannot, the Israelites live in exile and cannot go back until that day. Because Surah Al-Anbiya, there are 4 surahs in the Quran. They are, actually they maybe just three I call them trilogy of the Quran. And the 4th one supporting, giving, this is Al-Anbiya, giving the summary of these 4 surahs. Surah Al-Isra, mostly famous Isra, but its actual name, Bani Israel, Surah Al-Kahf, and Surah Maryam. So these 3 surahs, they have the same dialogue when we read them. So sometimes we start with a story in one surah and find the second part in the next one. For example, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ, the word they ask you. Oh Prophet, they ask you. You find it in Bani Israel. They ask you. And you find it in Al-Kahf. They ask you. So it's continuation of the dialogue. Al-Anbiya, mention them, and mostly when the dam of Gog and Magog has been opened, they from every elevation descend. So they will come back from after the dam will be opened. For hadith is different from the Quran. The Quran is just the Quran is sacred. The hadith, we have authentic, we have unauthentic, and so it's, we can dialogue it. For Sahih al-Bukhari, we have these 3 narratives. One of them, the first one, saying from the people who will live in hell in future, we have 1 from Muslims and 1,000 from Gog and Magog. So this is to show their number. The second one, this is a curse for Arabs, because at that day the Prophet is supposed to say there is a gap had been made in the dam of Gog and Magog. So maybe they appeared at that time. And the last one, people will continue for Hajj and Umrah even after the appearance of Gog and Magog. In Sahih Muslim, this is the second book of Hadith. We have a reference to when Gog and Magog, they attack the Holy Land, they pass Tiberias, it's a lake, Tabariya, it's in Palestine, and drink all of its water. So this is to show just, imagine how much they can drink. So just big lake, they can finish it in. And the last one, they will say there were water here. So when first they drink, first group, the last will find nothing. And this hadith in Sahih Muslim refers to the end of days, because we have Jesus, Nabi Isa, during his second coming. During the second coming, after they finished from the Antichrist or Dajjal, so they will take rest, and Gog and Magog appear to them. So they will not fight them. So they pray to Allah, and then in the morning they will find them killed. Because here we have Allah will send insects. The insects will attack their necks of Gog and Magog, and they will die. For Sunan Ibn Majah, this is the fourth book. But for my way, I didn't repeat the hadith. So if it's mentioned in Bukhari and Sunan Ibn Majah, I just used the first one. The other sources, they mention the same hadiths, but I don't use them because I already mentioned them in one book before. In Sunan Ibn Majah, we have one of the most interesting narratives. Here we have Jesus talking, and he said, I will descend and kill him, the Antichrist, Dajjal, the false Messiah. And then people will return to their own land, and then Gog and Magog will come to them and drink water. And they ask God, and then God killed them, and the earth will be filled with their stench. And then people ask God to purify the land, and God will send rain, so they take their bodies to the sea. And we have this second one. It says Muslims will use the bows and arrows and shields of Gog and Magog as firewood for 7 years. You can imagine if we think like before, because before they don't know we will have more advanced weapons. We will not fight by swords and bows. But still, how much you need to use bows and arrows and shields in firewood for 7 years. That's huge amount. And this is for non-biblical pre-Islamic texts. For my study, I see the influence Gog and Magog mentioned in these 6 sources. The Book of Jubilees, that's a sacred, canonical book in Church of Ethiopia. Targum, Jewish text, sublime oracles. This is it's about something will happen to the future for Gog and Magog. Jewish wars, mostly the first 4 sources, they have no eschatological rules. So for Gog and Magog, just mentioned without any important rule. As kind of literature, we have Alexander Romans and Alexander Legend. These 2 sources, they influence the later text, especially Islamic tafsir, more than any other source. The Alexander Legend and Alexander Romans. For the prophetic speech, we have some words that we can distinguish that this story will happen in future. It's not a story of the past. In the Qur'an, we have this one. This is the mercy of my Lord, and when the promise of my Lord comes, he will make it level. So this is for the future. When the promise of my Lord. And 99 also, when the horn will be blown and we will assemble them in assembly, one assembly. That's about the end day, the last day. In the Hebrew Bible, the book of Ezekiel, we have it's a prophecy. After many days, you will be called to arms in future years. So it will happen in future. Future years, you will invade a land that has recovered from war, whose people were gathered from many nations to the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolated. Actually, many, they use this, especially this 38, 8, as a reference to eschatological events will happen in the near future, just soon. Because just simple reading of it, it says, after many days, you will be called to arms. In future years, you will invade a land that has recovered from war. Palestine, whose people were gathered from many nations to the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolated. They had been brought out from the nations, and now all of them live in safety. And later we will see the influence of these texts in politics, in everything happening in the Middle East now. So people just think it's kind of far away. It's not in present future, but the story of Gog and Magog and the other signs of the end of days, they are the most working ideology right now. We have for Dhul Qarnayn in Islamic tradition, I have the who's the identity of Dhul Qarnayn. If we think who's the Dhul Qarnayn, mostly people in Tafsir they refer to Alexander the Great as the candidate of Dhul Qarnayn. But for me, I prefer to go to Cyrus. Cyrus is a Persian king. He could be Dhul Qarnayn, not Alexander, because of one reason. Alexander is atheist. Although he claimed, we have stories about Alexander, he built the gate to keep some people behind, but still he's not the candidate. For the methodology which I use this multidimensional approach, so-called socio-rhetorical interpretation. And we know the text itself is full with many levels. So you can see the text as a text, but we know that there are many things behind the text. The text is composed of ideology. We have cultural elements in the text. We have linguistic elements within the text. So I use this methodology to examine the text, actually the two texts until now. And I think I have to add the book of Revelation for my study. But now I just focus on two texts. We have this approach, it focuses on inner textures, that's the inner, it's linguistics, it's rhetorical interpretation. So we examine things like repetition, which is repeated words, progressive textures, opening, knitting, closing. We have the second one, intertexture, that's the relation between the text and other texts. Social and cultural texture, because we have the influence of society, ideological, and we have sacred. Based on the definition of ideology and the definition of sacred. People, they like to use the text according, number one, to their own ideology. So if you don't like this one, you can use it. Here, I just mentioned some examples of the way I examine the text. For example, in the book of Ezekiel, this is for inner texture. We have the repetition, the repeated words, the most repeated words, and then we examine the influence. Because when you hear something many times in one story, the brain automatically will focus on it. Although we don't do it intentionally, but it already happened. You hear the same word many times. We have the word Lord, sovereign, land, Israel, and say. These are the most repeated words. And in the Quran, we have say, it's the most repeated one, and then make, Lord, way, found. Progressive texture, that's, we see how these words, after repetition, how they will look like if we see them together. We have here the word, for example, in the book of Ezekiel 38, now this is just for the 38, we can see, for example, the land, Arabs, and Israel. So, repeated here more than one time. We can see the structure of the two words, Lord and sovereign, how they always come together, except in first and last lines. So we start thinking why. Why we have this one, first line, just Lord. Last one. This is for the Ezekiel 39. If you see Ezekiel 39, at the end here, we don't have Gog and Magog again. So the story finished there inside. We have in the Quran, the structure looks like this. This is the open, middle, close. Interestingly, for the book of Ezekiel, we have two openings. First line, the word of the Lord came to me, and then we have opening again in 39. The middle in 39 and the closing in 39. It's not at the beginning. For the Quranic story, the structure looks like this: middle, climax, and closing. This is the relation between Ezekiel 38, 39 and other biblical texts, because we have some themes. There's nothing called, like especially later books, they have referring to the previous books. In the book of Ezekiel 38, 39, we have references from all these biblical sources. They are from the Old Testament. But the book of Revelation will focus on Ezekiel 38, 39. So we have many images here in the book of Ezekiel already mentioned in other books. So it's kind of memory studies now, they have it them, so kind of recalling the past. This is Alexander legend with Surah Al-Kahf. Just a close look, we see the similarities. Here in Alexander legend, he said, let us make a gate. And it's made of copper. And here we have it in the same story in the Quran. But here they close it with raven. That's filling the gap between the two mountains. And Alexander, he make it to keep, actually he didn't mention Gog and Magog, but mentioned as Huns, this one. So they are strange creatures, they are living, and he made a gate. So even in Tafsir now we see it as a gate for the Yajuj and Majuj. People believe it's a gate. And that's why we find Alexander as Dhul Qarnayn. And finally, the conclusion of my study. So this is not just the conclusion of my study, but my personal interpretation of the narrative after all these years. For the identity, because people try to figure out who are Gog and Magog. Because we fear them. Like people, they used to say us, yeah, they will come one day in future and they will kill everything, destroy everything. So who they are? Aliens coming from the moon or from other planets? No, they are living on Earth, where they are now, right now, at this moment. You tell me like they are behind a wall or something. But we know the whole earth, there is no people hiding somewhere now. We can go from Asia to Africa, Europe, everywhere. Their identity, according to the text, it's easy. We can figure out they are human beings. And they are ancient tribes, like other tribes. It's just done. So they are not hiding in some place. They cannot hide anymore. They can use Pisawat airplanes to go out. So even if there is, now they can, it's easy. They cannot, you cannot keep them. But before you can keep them, during that time, you can build something and you can keep them. But now, no, they are just already finished. And they are human beings. So it's not a myth. Most books, they filled with myths related to Gog and Magog. So they are strange creatures. They have big ears, use one ear to sleep as a bed, the other one to cover themselves. They can fly. They are human beings. They are like us. And they lived before and died and finished. Their grandchildren, maybe with us now, they are living like us. They look like us. And the dam in the Qur'anic text, that's already destroyed. More than 1,400 years ago. So there is no dam. If you are waiting that moment, it will not happen because it's finished. If we read it, Dhul Qarnayn is a human being, and his army, they are human beings also. When they want to build something, it's a human power. So it will not bigger than what? Pyramids, it's okay. But still cannot survive all this long time. And if you believe it's already still there, you have to find it. And you have to find who is living behind, if there is people living behind. The location, it's easy to figure out because we agree that it's not the east, not the west, north. So we can go just to Jerusalem and look at the north. Because most of the tribes mentioned in the text, they are either in Turkey, Libya, Sudan, Iran. So they are tribes, not countries. Before there is no countries called this one. Food, maybe. Their life, Spanish just regular, they live regular life because they are human beings. So they live 60 years, 70, 80, maybe just like us. So they are not living for thousands of years underground. And power, yes, they are very strong. They are strong to attack, but still God can destroy them. And time, now this is a change. I believe this prophecy is already fulfilled. It's done. So we will not wait them anymore. Because from Quranic perspective, if I believe the dam is already destroyed, then the question, where they go? They just mix with people because they are people like us. They are just one. Magog, it's a name of a tribe. Like old names, like we have Tubal, like we have Meshech. These are old names for tribes, and it's just done. They live with us. It's not a myth, and it will not happen like what we expected, like in Hollywood movies, if you are interested. So it will not be like this. It will not be people coming from underground, big hairs, ugly, and we unite to fight them and we win. It will not be like that. So I think this is the last slide and the end of my presentation. Yeah, thank you very much.
So thank you for the presentations. I think I move to the discussion sessions. I will pick 3 people to have a comment or anything, please raise your hand. One, Aziz. Two people. Okay. Once more. No. Okay, we can start from Aziz first.
Thank you so much, Moffik, for your presentation. From the way you derive your conclusion, my impression is that you treat the text that you are analyzing as if those are self-evidently telling true stories. I mean that these are not myth. You say that this is not a myth, and while this story is only believed by those who follow Abrahamic tradition, which is only probably a fifth of humanity today. So I think you need to make a point here. For example, for people who live today, why do we really still care about this story? And why do we need to believe that this story is not just a folklore, it's not just a myth like many myths that society in the past have. I mean, many societies in the past have their own story about the end of time. There is story of the Messiah, there is story of the uncivilized people, the barbarian people that will destroy their civilization. Why this story is more somehow superior to other stories, and so we need to listen to this story. Yeah, this question might be too harsh or something, but yeah, that's my question.
Do you want to give that answer?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Aida. I was the class at CRCS non-technical. I like this theme subjects, but yeah, it's very much huge Gog and Magog. That's why I came here. So about your explanation, I have the same question with him. Religion is very closely related with myth. And we have I believe that they have a thin line between myth and stories stories like prophetics, even seer magic too. And I have a similar example about Gog, Magog, and Harut and Marut. Like we have folklore about that, and we have a revelation in Qur'an. So the question is, like you were mentioned about alien invention. Don't you think that it's kind of interesting, especially when in Al-Kafi talk about molten lead? Don't you think that it's perhaps like made an energy field, like you cannot see it, but it was there, and so probably you said that the dam already destroyed and they already out mixed with us. Don't you think that they were still hiding there something and waiting for the right moment? And they say that in some kind of story, they said they're waiting for the when the earth less with the sunshine, and they can open the gate. So it's basically focus on the gate. So the gate is real, both in story, both in revelation and myth. Okay. So what do you?
Thank you very much. For the first question, the story itself, because for us, also for the second question, it could be just one answer regarding to myth and mythology. We know that yes, every culture they have their own myth, but for the scriptures, this is not a myth. We read it as a myth, but there it's not a myth. It's just a regular story, like any other story. But for humanity, we don't like it like this. There should be some interesting part missing. So we add some interpretations to looks like a myth. Why do we care about these stories? This story is one like from not just the Islamic tradition. It makes the ideology of people. Religion can shape the ideology. I can make you do anything, convincing you by text. I will give you an example for this. So then you decide whether it's a myth or a fact. In what's happening in the Middle East now, Islamic State, ISIS. For me, I see it as apocalyptic movement. They read this text. They are interested in it, interested in the final battle between good and evil. So you find thousands of people from everywhere. They are going to fight because they believe this. It's not a myth. It will happen. So they have to prepare. So they enjoy it and then believe it and practice it. So that's why we care. We care not because it's like many people said the end is near, but it moves people from one place to another. See, you can do whatever you want. Just you can convince people it's the end. You can make even people stop their study, sell their properties, just because they believe it's the end. Why you trying to finish your istiwa? Why? For next year, no time. It's the end. And you see this in many, especially some religious leaders, they use it. And they want to make people fear. Yeah. So it's the end, prepare. And you have to forget all earthly interests. Don't think about money, house, wife, family, children, because you will not enjoy. You don't have enough time to enjoy it. Maybe the end is just next. And for the second one, when you refer to the story of Harut and Marut, that's magic. Even in interpretation, we're still struggling with that text. Who is the identity of Harut and Marut? Whether they are angels, because when you read the tafsir related to it, it's completely nonsense. Whether they are, what happened, especially what happened after they come down, because the story it's not logical. Humans making sense, and God sent angels because angels protested. Then angels go down to earth and they make the same sins. And then God removed them and teach people magic. And exactly it's in Babel in Iraq. The text is not like that. For the Mufassirin, interpreters of the Quran, they prefer to use the mythical approach. So they make you believe that, yes, like they are hiding in a cave or somewhere and then waiting maybe less light and then they go out. This is typical Hollywood movie. So just waiting the sun just go down, that's not logical. But if you tell people stories like this, they will listen to you. It's interesting that some creatures behind your back door just waiting the right moment to finish your life. For me, I prefer to just read the text as it is. All these, they are not there in the text from where you get them. If you see the Quranic text, it's just simply, that's why actually many scholars, they refuse to see it as apocalyptic, the story of Gog and Magog, because mostly it's related to just few people. In the book of Ezekiel, it's just the future of the Jews, Israel only. So it's not humanity. In the Quranic story, it's about those small people, population who Dhul-Qarnayn met. So it's just about their future, the problem between Gog and Magog and those people. It's not between Gog and Magog and the rest of humanity. This is what makes the difference. So it's not, Gog and Magog is not international phenomenon. They are just few amount of people have a problem with their neighbors. That's it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll open to the next sessions. I will pick also 3 people to have questions. Hari, once. Najutu, Afif, and once more. Okay. Start on Harry.
I'm Harry. I'm looking to apply to the CRCS this year. So my question is, from looking at the kind of the descriptions of draining all the water and causing all this destruction, it seems to fit kind of like what's happening environmentally with narratives about the environment now. So are there any groups or any scholars or anyone who's kind of linking the story of Gog and Magog with what's happening globally to do with climate change or plastic or anything like that?
Thank you. Afif?
Okay, my name is Afif. Yeah, from Yajuj, 2017. My question, I'm wondering about the Quranic position here. So, you do intertextual analysis, right? So, how do you see the Quranic position here with regard to the story of Gog Magog? So if we see from the, let's say, revisionist tradition, you say in the late antiquity how the pre-Quranic texts, for instance, have shaped the way Qur'an convey to the address to the Meccan. So, what is actually the Qur'an wanna tell if we relate this story with for instance with the prophetic or the da'wah of the prophet himself. So does it speak about the truth of the story, or does it tell what? So, or does it tells about how the Meccan people challenge the prophet? So with the word yes alunaka, so it seems that they want to challenge the prophet, whether are you the true prophet. If you are really true prophet, please tell about the ancient story. So is there and also does the Quran make unique for certain purposes?
Yes, thank you. For the first question, it's when we relate it to the environment, because we are unlucky because the narrative now fixed on the eschatological discourse. That's the end of life. So it's the complete destruction. Now this is what people believe. During that time, we have complete destruction of life as we know it right now. The nature environment will be destroyed because of them, because of this phenomena of Gog and Magog. Go back to just one point here. That's why some people, they believe it's we have energy fields, some laser techniques. They will use them so they can fight us. The earth, if we believe as a myth, the the earth will be destroyed. Most of the earth will be destroyed at that time. No way to save it. But this is what the text says. You just we believe it's not like that. No change in the environment, because some, even from the tafsir, they believe yes, we will have some natural change. The sun will be less. Other thing, the sun will rise from the west, not from the east, and then we have all this. But it's not like that.
So, do you consider this text is a kind of warning, or is a story about the worn past with the hands or something?
No, it has nothing to do with what we understand as from Christian traditions. They have the Armageddon. From Islamic, we have Malhama. So that's a big war will happen at the end in that area.
So it's prophecy?
We make it as a prophecy, but it's not there. We interpret it
As a prophecy.
as we see this text telling us a big war will happen. We want to see it like that. But actually, you cannot find it there. Then we have with the extra text, if we read the Qur'an, it didn't mention it. Even the second coming, it didn't mention it. Then we want to put it there. So we add it. So life will change. Yes, now we can see some changes in human environment. We can find more maybe earthquakes, hurricanes, but we should not attribute them to the text. Look guys, read it. You have it there. No, because this is happening all the time. You cannot stop it.
Do you consider that the time when the Gog and Magog is the same time with Alexander?
For Alexander, I have different opinion about him. It's like the Pharaoh in Egypt. He knows these stories and he attributed all these stories to him. It's not he, but people around him, because they want to make him a great man. So, if you want to see him as great king, what we will do? Yeah, he closed the door of Gog and Magog, so he kept them away. But you cannot find it in history like this. Because even from Islamic perspective, Dhul Qarnayn should be believer in God. Because for me, he's a prophet. Because he had this kind of communication with God. And this is one difference between to be a prophet and messenger. Prophet and messenger, they are different. They are not similar. Prophets could be many. We have many prophets, even some we don't know. Dhul Qarnayn is one of them because he had revelation from God. The man of Moses, Surah Al-Kahf, the same one. The man who killed a boy and who built a wall and doing things because of God told him to do that. Dhul Qarnayn also the same thing. So Cyrus of Persia could be one, because when from history and from the Old Testament, he is qualified to be a prophet. And for your question, Ms. Atif, the story in the Quran, it's not an answer to the people of Mecca, because it's outside of their culture. So the story of Gog and Magog and many other stories, they are not from the Arabic culture, so they don't know anything about them before. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ here, they ask you, it's not the Arabs. According to Asbab al-Nuzul, it's for Jewish leaders, rabbis. They ask these questions. It's not for the Arabs, they have no connection with this narrative. Even the whole Surah Al-Kahf, there is no connection. That's why I connected to the previous Surah, Bani Israel, Al-Isra. We call it Al-Isra, but its actual name, it's Bani Israel. So you see the connection, and the second one, after it you find Surah Maryam. So it's like a dialogue with Judaism in Surah Bani Israel and Christianity in Surah Maryam. The story, it's just, if you read it as simple, it's just easy. But if you add the extra layers, especially from tafsir, you will find no answer for any question. So just stick with the main text. The others, they are interpretation. For the interpretation, they use extra sources. The extra sources, they come mostly from mythical narratives. We want it to be like that. So we add. Whenever I add something, people will listen to me more. And whenever people listen to me more, I become famous. And I can have thousands of followers. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we have still questions. Please raise your hand. Okay, one. Okay, two. Okay, from you first.
Okay, my first question is there a connection between Gog and Magog and Dajjal or Antichrist? And then are Gog and Magog the Dajjal or no? Yes, it.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Gabo. I'm from Hungary, and I don't really have a question, just a comment, because in my country this narrative is quite popular, but in a totally different way. We focus more on the not the future aspect of it as a prophecy, but as something from the past, something from our past, because Hungarians arrived to Europe from the East in like 10th century, and the other Europeans called us Hungarians from the Huns, but we call ourselves Magyars, in Arabic Majuj, which like 14th, 15th century historians said, oh, it comes from the name of Magog. And we also, it's kind of in modern times, in 20th century, poets and literature, they use this Gog and Magog narrative to define identity. Like one poet says, I'm the son of Gog and Magog. I'm banging on the walls and the doors. Things like this to make a difference why Hungarians are a little bit different from the rest of Europe. So yeah, and for us, the other difference is that it's not, there's nothing religious about it. It's just an old story, and somehow, because of this 20th century political and literature connections, we have it all in our minds, but it's not religious. It's just kind of identity.
Thank you.
I will refer to some part here. I have it refers to Hans. This story of Alexander. This one. So that if the Huns came and dug out of the rock which was under the threshold of the iron horseman, so this is when he closed the gate, close it for Huns. And Huns, they're not hungry, because now we call it, these are modern names. For measure in Arabic, Magog, also it's just people, they want it like that. So that's your point, it's just about culture. We want it like this. If I dislike someone, I can put him an evil, so he's a descendant of Magog. So I give myself the right, I'm better than him. And from the other side, some people, they prefer to be belong to this tribe. So we are from Magog because they are strong. For your question, Gog and Magog related to Dajjal in two ways. We have some narratives, they say they will appear after the time of Dajjal. That's the Antichrist. A man will claim himself to be the Messiah. And Jesus will come and fight him. For we have two here antagonists, two evil creatures. We have the Antichrist and we have Gog and Magog. Some say they will come before him and prepare the stage for him. Others say after Dajjal. But again, both narratives, even the story of Dajjal, it's not there in the Quran. And you have to think about it again. Just the sources of this narrative. The Antichrist. And for Gog, Magog, majority they said they will come after him. After the coming of Dajjal, and we win the war against Dajjal, and then we have another strong enemy called Gog and Magog, and God will fight them, and we win again. And then we enjoy. So this should be reread again, apart from these sides, just the original text.
Okay. So thank you so much. Maybe this is the end for the discussion of our Wednesday forum. Please give applause to Mas'ud. So before I give the announcement for the next week, I think there is a small gift for the Mowafg. I invite Pak Leo to give. So I have several announcements that we will not have a session for the next week because we are in the national holiday. So we will have another sessions in 10th April. So the announcement for the topic and the discussion that we're going to talk in the next session will be uploaded in our website and also the social media, including Facebook and also Instagram. I remind you that we also provide live streaming in our Facebook, and all the video from previous semester until this semester also is in the Facebook account itself. So if you want to check, just check all the video if you miss one session. Thank you so much, and see you in next 2 weeks, and be happy guys. Thank you.
I don't know. I wasn't processed. That's why I was interested, because it seems like something that should be in the literature.
How is the process of your admission here?
I don't know. I'm a bit confused.
Have you already had some options?